How does one single family manage to keep absolute, terrifying control over an entire nation for 3 unbroken generations? Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so excited to guide you through this because we're really going to unpack the truth behind Kim Jong Un's leadership and the incredible, almost invisible mechanisms that keep his regime firmly in power. We're looking at a system built on extreme surveillance, advanced weaponry, and absolutely mandatory obedience. Okay, let's dive right in and see how the Kim Dynasty actually operates from the inside out.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the Kim Dynasty's rise, the nuclear threat, the OGD's control, the 10 principles, daily reality, and finally, the next generation. Let's get started.
Part 1. The Kim Dynasty's rise, a modern dictatorship.
3 generations. That is how long the Kim family has ruled North Korea since the end of World War II. Kim Il-sung founded the state back in 1948. His son, Kim Jong-il, ruled for 17 years until his death in 2011. And then, leadership passed down to Kim Jong Un. Now, he was just 28 years old at the time. A lot of outside observers speculated that his youth and inexperience would actually lead to the regime's collapse. But instead, he swiftly consolidated his power. He installed his own loyalists, completely reinvigorated the Workers' Party of Korea, and ruthlessly reclaimed power from elite factions. He purged top officials to ensure absolutely no one questioned his authority.
Part 2. The Nuclear Threat, the Byung-Jin Line Strategy.
So how exactly does he pull off this survival tactic? Well, in his early years, Kim Jong Un developed what is known as the Byung-Jin Line. It's basically a policy of parallel development. He is dead set on building a terrifying, highly advanced nuclear arsenal while simultaneously trying to grow the domestic economy. And you know, the global fear generated by his nuclear posturing isn't just about foreign policy. It is deeply tied to his strength at home. He essentially uses the acquisition of nuclear weapons as a giant propaganda springboard. He frames it to his people as the only way to protect the socialist state, promising that once they're secure, they can finally focus on economic prosperity.
Moving on to Part 3, the OGD's control, invisible bureaucracy.
Now, the crucial thing to understand here is that Kim Jong Un's power is absolute because it overlaps literally every single sector of society. He wears multiple hats. He's the supreme leader, sure, but he is also the supreme commander of the Korean People's Army, or KPA, which gives him direct, unfiltered military control. On top of that, he's the chairman of the Workers' Party of Korea and the chairman of the State Affairs Commission, the highest policy organ of the state. By centralizing all of these roles, he makes absolutely sure that no matter where you look, the party, the military, or the government, every single road leads right back to him.
But let's be real. Kim Jong Un cannot manage 25 million people all by himself. He does it through a group called the OGD, the Organization and Guidance Department. The OGD is arguably the most powerful political organization in North Korea. Think of it as the ultimate control tower. It's responsible for overseeing all surveillance, managing the assignments, promotions, and purges of every senior leader, and ensuring that the entire society remains intensely, unquestioningly loyal to the supreme leader. Honestly, the survival of the Kim regime literally depends on the OGD doing its job.
And what is truly chilling is how our sources describe the OGD's ultimate function. It acts as the control tower of human rights denial. See, the OGD strictly enforces what's known as the monolithic guidance system. Its one and only purpose is to preserve the regime, and to pull that off, it systematically overrides any concept of universal human rights. Whether we're talking about the operation of horrific political prisons, or the vast network of social surveillance that leads to tragic events like the death of American student Otto Warmbier, or even the assassination of Kim's own half-brother, the OGD is the exact mechanism executing those orders to instill fear and guarantee compliance.
Part 4. The 10 Principles, Unquestionable Obedience. Enter the 10 Principles. Originally released back in 1974, this is widely regarded as the most powerful document in North Korea. And it's super important to understand that these are not just your standard civil laws. This is a rigid, almost religious-like doctrine. It demands absolute, unquestioning obedience to the Kim family. It dictates the specific attitudes, the thoughts, and the everyday behaviors required of every single citizen. It shapes how laws are implemented and forms the absolute baseline for all state propaganda. These 10 principles fuel what the regime calls the monolithic ideological system. And the stakes for violating this system, they are unimaginably high. The strict laws and total lack of freedom under the 10 principles mean that any deviation,
even a minor one, is viewed as a direct threat to the supreme leader. The party and internal security agencies ruthlessly punish violators, very often disappearing them into political prison camps. This extreme level of deterrence is specifically designed to completely stamp out the development of any political factions that could ever even dream of opposing Kim Jong Un.
Which brings us down to the ground level in Part 5, Daily Reality, Life under the OGD. There's a quote from our sources that is just chilling. It says, "Distrust has become a normal part of everyday life in North Korea." And a huge driver of this is the Songbun system. It's a strict social classification system based entirely on your political loyalty to the regime. Songbun literally dictates your job, your housing, and your overall worth in society. Because of this, surveillance isn't just about hidden cameras on street corners, it is deeply human. Surveillance agents are embedded directly into the civilian population. They're tasked with watching and reporting on their own neighbors, their own coworkers, and everyone knows this is happening. The psychological weight of that is immense. It totally engineers a society where you cannot fully trust anyone, not even your friends.
The daily reality of this control is just relentless. Beyond those embedded informants, citizens are subjected to mandatory sangwal chonghwa, or self-criticism sessions. This is a profoundly effective mechanism of control. Think about it. Citizens are literally forced to publicly confess their own ideological shortcomings, and, here's the real kicker, they have to criticize the shortcomings of their peers. Combine that with constant ideological training and mandatory party organizational life, and researchers actually note that these forced self-criticism sessions are what keep the North Korean regime afloat. It essentially turns the entire population into its own police force.
Finally, Part 6, the next generation, fourth generation. Let's look at a highly calculated political gesture. On New Year's Day in 2026, Kim Jong Un visited the Kumsan Palace of the Sun, which is the sacred site where his father and grandfather are enshrined. But surprisingly, he wasn't the focal point. His daughter, Kim Ju-ae, was placed at the exact center of the front row. That is a space traditionally reserved only for the supreme leader. State media has even started using highly elevated honorifics for her, calling her most august and a great leader who provides guidance. This is a massive signal. It marks a shift from her just being his daughter to actively being presented as the future leader.
In North Korea, hereditary power succession traditionally follows three institutional stages. First, designation and training. Second, internal formalization. And third, external formalization. Right now, intelligence assessments place Kim Ju-ae squarely in that first successor training phase. Her public appearances have steadily expanded from strictly military events to much broader state affairs, meticulously crafting a narrative that's clearly designed for succession.
And get this, the regime has actually quietly altered its legal framework to prepare for this exact transition. Back at the 8th Party Congress, the party rules were secretly revised to create a brand new position, the first secretary of the party's central committee. This role acts as a deputy, authorized to actually exercise the powers of the general secretary. Experts view this as a vital institutional safety net. It ensures regime stability just in case of a sudden contingency, and it paves a formal legal pathway for the Pakdu bloodline to continue its rule well into a fourth generation.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. We've seen the advancing nuclear arsenal, the absolute power of the OGDA, the rigid 10 principles, and a society literally forced to police itself through daily self-criticism. As the Kim Dynasty methodically prepares to hand this terrifying machinery over to a fourth generation, we have to ask, how long can a regime built entirely on engineered distrust, extreme isolation, and absolute obedience truly sustain itself in a modernizing world? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.